Okay, welcome everyone to the webinar today. Um, we have got a number of exciting guests that are ready to present on our topic of fast tracking innovative US PV technologies into mass production. So my name is Finlay Colville and I'm Head of Market Research at PV Tech. And a little bit of background on what we're doing for the next 45 minutes is we have been planning our PV Celtech event in October, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. Say a little bit on that at the end. And as part of that, part of the research leading up to that, we have been uncovering an awful lot of information on and details on exactly how the US as a whole is kind of stimulating early stage companies through their startup process, through as a kind of springboard towards those companies going on to bigger and better things. And we're going to hear a little bit about what that involves and some examples of companies that have been championed at the government level and are positioned to play a key role in US manufacturing going forward. So we've got three speakers, and I'm going to let them all introduce themselves in a minute. We get Katie from the Department of Energy, CETO office, and Eric from Origami, and Debbie from American Made Prize Program, which is another DOE initiative. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear from each of them in that order. So Katie, then Eric, and then Debbie. And they'll each be talking for about 5-10 minutes on their role and their function and what's on offer for other potential new innovative startups and technologies in the US. And then we'll do a little bit of Q&A with all of us on the line, and I may even add in some comments myself at that point. So if you want to put a question in, then you can put that into the chat box that you'll see on the screen, and we'll look at the questions throughout, and then we'll kind of talk about them at the end. And of course, that only relates to the people that are live at the moment. So a kind of belated hello from myself to the folks that are going to be listening to the rerun, the recording that's available for the next couple of days. But for those on at the moment, then you are the ones that have the chance to ask the questions that the others are going to be listening to. So that's about me for the time being. I'm now going to hand over to Katie, and she's going to talk a little bit about her role and her department's role. So Katie, the floor is all yours.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Taylor. I'm a technology advisor at the Department of Energy in the U.S. Under the Solar Energy Technology Office on the Manufacturing and Competitiveness team, which used to be called the Tech to Market team. So disclaimer, you'll see that asterisk there. I'm a contractor, not a federal employee. So anything I say does not reflect the opinions, thoughts, hopes, and dreams of the federal government. So before I was in this role, which I started about a year ago, I was actually an entrepreneur myself. So I spent 6 years in India where I started a company and spun it up. We make solar pumps for small acreage farmers. We now sell in different parts of Asia and Africa, but it spun out of grad school, went through all of the typical startup struggles around fundraising, product design, finding the right team, finding the right partners, setting up distribution, all of that. And now I'm on the flip side, helping other solar entrepreneurs in their journey, which is a real honor and a privilege. So I work at the Solar Energy Technologies Office. There, our mission and what we really focus on is how we can equitably transition to a decarbonized economy. So we care about affordability, we care about accessibility, we care about grid being reliable, resilient, and secure. and we care that we are moving and accelerating towards increasing the workforce, increasing manufacturing, and looking at that circular economy in a wide range of applications. So there's the Department of Energy, and then under that, there's a couple different ones. There's the EERE, which is the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Office, and under that is where CETO sits, my office. So just for awareness, EERE covers a ton of different types of technologies. You've got the renewables, stuff on manufacturing, energy efficiency, stuff about transportation. So it's an exciting place to work. We fund projects all across the country, but also with different types of partners, different types of recipients. So we've got national labs, universities, and then businesses, nonprofits, state and local government. What my team focuses on is the businesses and the for-profit partners. So in our office, we have 5 teams. We've got the PV team, we've got the concentrated solar thermal power team, balance of systems, soft cost reduction, systems integration, and then my team is the manufacturing and competitiveness. We kind of span across all of the other technological focus teams because what we're looking at is how we can work with those, in the public-private partnerships to get tech out of the lab and all the way to market, to get it so it's actually helping people, it's actually out there. We also, of course, care about increasing domestic manufacturing competitiveness. And as you may know, now is a very exciting time with IRA, and there's going to be a lot of transition and opportunities in the next 5-10 years around that. We care about developing tools, technologies, innovations that will lower costs and just increase deployment of solar across the US. So we work with entrepreneurs, we work with innovators. We get to see firsthand the real power that solar entrepreneurs can have in changing the world. And you'll get to hear from Eric later about this, but it's just really inspiring stuff. And we do both, of course we do funding, but we also help with other parts of it. We help people and organizations, companies, teams to go all the way from, validating whatever their idea is, getting to the prototype, figuring out manufacturing, and then ideally reaching the market, achieving that market penetration. So this is, again, our goal, that it's all about the real world impact on our team. We care about making sure not just that, the tech is good, which as many engineers in the audience will know, we tend to get a bit myopic about that, but we need to make sure that there's the product market fit, that you've got the business plan to go to market, that you've got, you're in touch with the customers from day one and over and over and over, and taking in all of that feedback. So this one I love. This is how we define our success, right? It's hitting the market, it's having that impact, but I think a lot of times when it's engineers, and I'm an engineer by training as well, and I think we need to make sure that we're not just thinking about hitting the budget, hitting the specs, hitting the timeline, but also, is the pull there? You don't want to do the creating the hammer and the nail problem. And we look at what radical breakthrough there can be, right? Everyone wants to have that breakthrough technology that makes all of this difference. But the thing in solar, I think it's a really interesting one where maybe people they hear solar PV and they're like, it's been done, what's the innovation? But when you think about like component improvements, as you see on the graph on the right-hand side here, a bunch of breakthrough technologies in the components leads to an overall, massive system improvement, which is what makes affordability real, which is what makes adoption real, which is what makes bringing down, our carbon footprint real. So all of these things really add up. And we're here to support the entrepreneurs and the teams, the innovators who are coming up with and developing these really impressive technologies. So in terms of what technology areas we focus on, in the mature sector technologies, of course, PV supply chain and manufacturing. Again, IRA is making this a real hot topic, exciting right now. Balance of systems, installation and automation. Emerging sector, we're looking at perovskites, hybrid tandems, as well as wide bandgap power electronics. And then we're also looking at dual use. So this is building integrated PV, vehicle integrated PV, floating, and then agrivoltaics. I actually lead our work on my team in agrivoltaics. And as an example of what dual use is, it's, like if you had a farm with just all the solar panels on the next plot of land over, that's not dual use. That's, solar could be powering the farm. But this is where it's actually integrated into the land. So you'll see in this image, you can have grazing of sheep, or you can have row crops. So there's a lot of cool research and development going on there. So we fund in a number of different ways. We used to just kind of fund the old school, like these massive 100-page applications, so dense. When I was an entrepreneur, I found it very, very intimidating. And you have to, put up cost share requirements, which means that the young startups didn't even have the money to try and do this. So that's those competitive financial assistance ones. Then SBIR and STTR were developed, which are focused more on R&D. But the one that I find the most exciting are prizes, which Debbie will talk to you more about later. But the beauty of prizes is that I think, as Eric put it just before this, prizes are validation for work already done, right? It's a stamp of approval. You get cash. We're not there managing how you spend the cash, right? You've won it, you spend it, we trust you. It's also quick. It's not going through a 100-page process. It's not a year-long process to get the money. But of course, the other ones have their benefits. It just depends on what the application is. For instance, with the competitive financial assistance ones, you get a lot more, you're working together with me and my colleagues to develop a plan for what you're going to do over the next 2-3 years and things like that. So I won't go into the prizes too much, but the prizes are cool. They're exciting. There's all different types. There's pitch competitions. There's community development prizes, technology. In my team, we have the American Made Solar Prize. But again, I'll let Debbie get into that. SBIR and STTR, there's 2 different phases. And it's a feasibility study for phase 1, which is 9 months. And then you apply again, you can apply again for phase 2, which is developing the prototype and proof of concept. And I've seen a lot of small businesses really get their start through this. It's a really great program. I highly recommend looking into it. And then the last one is this, the more traditional incubator competitive financial assistance, which our team runs annually. And again, it's for-profit companies. It's a longer time frame, 1 to 3 years. You have to put up cost share, but it's big money if you have it. So most importantly, this graphic here, if you lean in, the orange on the side, that big funnel is the prizes, right? Because that's kind of the lowest barrier of entry. We have high schoolers apply. We have, not high schoolers apply. We have much more mature companies and things apply. But it's a lower barrier of entry. It's a simpler application process. It kind of gets people in the door where then they, become more familiar with how to do this. They have the contacts, they learn and can apply for SBIR and then maybe incubator and things like that. But the beautiful thing about this graphic, if you see the sort of yellow network support, that arrow, this is where what Debbie does and her team, and I work with them and this guy, Eric Byington, this American-made network we have is something that it's a network of different organizations across the country, and it helps support entrepreneurs and helps them, it teaches you how to apply for a FOA, for the incubator. It teaches you how to best craft your Solar Prize application. It also, they do recruitment. So we're not just getting the same people in over and over who know how to apply for government funding, reaching out to different corners of the country, different communities and things like that, which of course is necessary, as all scientists should know. We need all of those ideas in to get, the best ones coming to the top. So this network support is just really amazing for what it's done for the community and the solutions that come through. If you want to learn about upcoming funding opportunities or just keep up to date on stuff that's going on in CETO, we've got these two here. Hopefully you can take a screenshot, and then my email is at the bottom there. But I'll just leave you with the fact that we're thrilled about startups. Startups can change the world, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, Katie, thank you. And just before you vanish for the next 20 minutes or so, can you say a little bit about what kind of, has there been any change in the kind of profile of the applicant? Because obviously if you look at all the different opportunities, then they do range from literally, two men in their basement coming up with an idea to big organizations that want to utilize SBIR as within a research activity. But if you were look now at a kind of snapshot of people that were applying or in discussions, are you seeing any kind of trends of what kind of companies or what kind of profile of people do you think are mostly looking at the different options?
Well, that's the beauty of the network, right? The network is making it so that people at all different levels can be applying for the different ones. You have to look at specific funding opportunities. And I know for my company, for instance, we couldn't have done the, matching funds in year 2, but let's talk about year 6, But we see all different types. You've got in the same batch of applications, you've got, tiny startup, 1-man, 2-man, or you've got a team from GE or First Solar. And, when I first started, didn't really understand that. But in these companies, you still, there's innovative high risk stuff, which is where the government comes in and can fund that. And if it's proven, then, GE can take that forward. But same thing with these startups. It's all different types of profiles across this. Again, thank you. Thanks to the network making that possible.
Yeah, it's I almost want to be applying myself, but I guess that I have to be in America, an American citizen there. Just in case anyone at the moment is listening in from some far reach part of the world, I hope you're finding it very interesting, but there's obviously restrictions.
You don't have to be an American citizen, but there are restrictions for each one. So again, you'd have to read each one, but we have plenty of PIs who are not American citizens in different countries. So.
Okay, great. So we'll bring you back in, Katie, towards at the end when we do some general Q&A. So our next presentation, we're going to hear from a company called Origami, and Eric is waiting just to jump in, and I'm not going to say anything more because Eric will bring the reason for his participation amongst government officials to life. So, Eric, I'm going to pass over to you right now.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Can we put the slides over to, there we go. This is Debbie's presentation. There we go. It's great to be here. Finlay asked me to say just a minute about myself. I've been in solar for over 30 years, and I consider it a real privilege to have been in this incredible industry with these incredible people. Origami was started with an idea. And in the past, I've been very fortunate to have started other companies based on ideas and move them forward. And generally speaking, what I've looked for in the past has been looking for problems. And what I saw looking through the industry, there's one component after all the industry has just been so successful in driving costs down, but one component is actually more expensive today than it was when I started, certainly, and that's the module frame. And it's basically been unchanged. And if you look at everybody's profiles, the profile works, but there's really not much innovation there. So I thought that we really had an opportunity to innovate this. So the initial concept came when I was actually looking at my microwave, and I noticed how the door is wrapped in some roll formed steel. Roll forming is a very high-speed process. And I thought we could do this differently. And I didn't know a lot about aluminum at the time, but I've certainly learned a lot since then. On the right, you can see our first concept drawing. And I had a secret weapon in that a longtime partner, friend of mine, Jack Patton, he and I have done multiple things together. He's a brilliant engineer, and he took this idea and we started organizing. How do we take flat steel and fold it to make it have structure? And that's also where the name of the company origami comes from, which is the Japanese paper art of taking something that has almost no structure, and then when you fold it, it has a lot of structure. So with that idea, I started writing the business plan. And the first thing that really struck me was just the size of the market. And this metric still gets me, it amazes me that a single gigawatt of modules requires about 13,000 kilometers of frame. And so when you think about the US moving rapidly towards 60, 80, 100 gigawatts of production capacity, that the amount of frame required is just vast. But then what really drove the business model was recognizing the key elements that were going to make this successful. First of all, steel prices historically and continue to be about 1/3 the cost of aluminum on a per kilogram basis. Now, we do use about twice the mass for a single frame than aluminum. We're using very thin steel, but it is heavier. But it's still about 1/3 the cost and twice the mass, so the math is not that hard. In addition, roll forming is really suited for high speed, high precision manufacturing. And so we're able to roll form our frames at about up to 10 times faster than aluminum frames can be extruded and machined and anodized and cut to sink and then punched. We can do it about 10 times faster. And then the key breakthrough also is that for about in the late 90s, a new coating came to the steel industry, which is called zinc aluminum magnesium, or ZAM, by some companies. And it provides corrosion resistance that lasts as long as the PV modules themselves. The next step, of course, is to create the company. Now, as I mentioned, I've been in solar for about 30 years, and so I have this wonderful network of people that I've known, entrepreneurs and engineers and innovators and just hardcore business people. And I went out to them, and I'm really proud to say that every single one of those people are still actively involved in our company, either as employees or as advisors. We were also fortunate to land like the dream investor who flat out said, he says, I've made a lot of money. I want to help save the world. Pretty remarkable approach. So we got started as a company, and let's fast forward then about a year and a half later, after we really got going, our lead engineer, who was had participated in a previous American-made prize when he was getting his master's in mechanical engineering, and he suggested we went in this, and he played a major role in getting us started. And the first steps were actually really easy. We provided our highlights from our product, the business plan, what our market was, how we were going to go to market. And we got selected through the Ready contest. And that was very exciting. The really surprising part of this contest, though, of winning that stage, was suddenly the deep engagement from both NREL and from their partners, such as Carnegie Mellon. And they brought in consulting that we didn't have to pay for, but was super capable. And they really helped us. They brought rigor to us. And in particular, we worked on areas such as the market analysis and refocusing our program on domestic supply and demand. We also, the original business plan was focused on licensing. And through this process with NREL and CMU, we really evolved our business plan more towards product supply. And that also then led us to realize that we needed to build an entire supply ecosystem, because this industry does not exist in the United States. And so the building these module frames out of steel. And so we had to create that entire industry. And one of the things that was really great about this process was that it forced us through a rigorous process to get better and better as a company, and to really challenge our business model, and to challenge our market analytics, and to challenge us in working closely with customers, as Katie was just mentioning, that deep engagement. And so working with the American-made Solar Prize team writ large, the network, as Katie was talking about, really was very contributive in us making real progress and in iterating our business plan and for each of the rounds. I got to say, when our name was called as a grand prize winner, it was very exciting. And the $500,000 as a prize, as Katie mentioned, it was, versus a grant. A grant, you have to constantly earn that money. The prize meant that they trusted us, and we rolled it right into the company, and that was huge for us. But almost as much as important, or maybe in many ways more important, is that it really validated us, because it validated both our technology and it validated our business model to the entire PV industry. I was just mentioning to Debbie earlier that the marketing output from NREL has been fantastic for us, and the recognition and the validation from the industry because of this has been terrific. We also have won vouchers, and we're continuing to work with Sandia National Labs, which has been a great partnership for our testing and really helping us advance on the technology. A major part of why we're doing this and why we think that this is an essential change for our industry. The industry had a bad mark against it, using so much aluminum. And what we're able to do by changing the steel, and this analysis was done by a third-party life cycle analysis company, an investor-grade company, that we're saving over 80 kilograms per module. That's over 200 metric tons of GHG reduction per megawatt. It has a huge impact, huge. Here are some images showing one of our factory lines, and you can see it's a continuous process. We start off on the left with flat steel coming off a coil. It goes through a punching process, and then it goes through about 40 rollers, giving it shape. And then it goes through precision dies to make sure that it comes out exactly precisely required. And in the end, it's a beautiful product. And we're able to produce these things at up to 30 meters per minute, 100 feet per minute, in a clean, finished product that requires a very small footprint. So in terms of commercialization, which is what this program is all about, a year later, we're still working closely with the American-made team at NREL and CMU. We've built our Gen 2 products, and we're currently in testing, I'm very happy to say, with multiple customers, and as well as third party. And we've been very successful in building up our fabricator and steel supply network. And so we actually have the supply chain ready to deliver to the industry. This has also led us to be very successful at our Series A, and we're ready for mass production. And we'll be delivering frames to customers and to systems near all of us in less than a year. And as Eric Peterson reminds me, he says, no presentation is complete without the column of red X's and green checks. And what this really does say, though, is that the value proposition for steel module frames is solid and is going to change the industry. And we're very excited to be a leadership part of that. Thanks for your time.
Eric, thank you. Excellent. A couple of things. First of all, just can for anyone that doesn't know, just say NREL CMU. Tell them what they are.
So National Renewable Energy Labs, which is a division of the Department of Energy, and they manage the American-made Solar Prize. And then part of their network, and they have a vast network, but the Ben Colgrove over at Carnegie Mellon was very engaged with us and was a terrific counselor and consultant for us. And so it was through the process of being as part of the contest, of winning the ready, and then at each step we got deep involvement. And as we went into the final stage, it was very rigorous. I know it started off easy, but it got very rigorous, but it was very good for us as well. It was a challenge that has helped our company.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad you brought up NREL. I actually think NREL right now is the US is jewel in the crown. I don't see an entity like NREL anywhere else in the world. If you look at I mean, specifically in solar manufacturing, if you look at the areas where solar manufacturing is dominated at the moment, all through the value chain, and that includes Europe with all its research institutes. There's the role that NREL has is absolutely unique, and it's perfectly positioned to play a massive part in US manufacturing build out. And I'm not even sure if everybody kind of appreciates how important it should be and hopefully will be. But where I'm coming from, I've seen a number of the research institutes in Europe become more and more driven by having to justify return on investment on their research. That kind of classic, university professors having to show that their research is immediately can be commercialized. And that applies to some of the research institutes, I think, in Asia, Southeast Asia. I'm not sure the type of infrastructure, but kind of, Eric, from what you've seen, again, over 30 years, would you agree with me that what NREL has is pretty special?
I absolutely do. And I think that the role that the government plays in a burgeoning industry, I've talked to people, the old joke of economists and meteorologists are the two professions that are consistently wrong, but still taken seriously. But when we look back at the early days of solar, and the economists said, if we support solar, if we advance it, both technology and the markets, it will find its footing. And it's been incredibly successful. And NREL has been just an essential element in moving solar forward. And if we all remember ourselves, commercial solar, PV solar, was invented in the U.S. and NREL is a key part in the DOE in bringing the manufacturing back to the U.S.
Just one last question. You spoke about how the cash prize was different. Did the cash prize did it prevent diluting the company in terms of having other investments? Because if you'd gone out,
especially at an early stage, because at an early stage, dilutions are because your valuation is very low at an early stage, and so dilutions are significant. But it also meant that we weren't constantly having to prove ourselves over and over again. We didn't have to meet all the requirements. Working with grants, it takes almost an entire infrastructure just to manage grants, and we were too small to have that. We looked at actually applying for grants and said we just don't have the people that could manage the grant, because managing the grant takes a significant portion of the resources. And so the prize was a very welcome and very appreciated approach.
Yeah, because it's like the kind of it's the kind of opposite, if you like, of the standard, like Silicon Valley venture capitalist go in and attract somebody with the carrot of cash, but ultimately, the control and direction can go, you can lose touch of that really early.
I think also the prize is very aspirational, that they trusted us with this money that we're going to go in and advance the company. And I find that particular element to be really positive.
Right. So everyone listening right now, Eric, thank you. Again, you'll come back at the end. So everyone at the moment is sitting there waiting got their emails already, wanting to know an email address. How do I get this money? And if ever there was a better introduction, Debbie, I mean, the floor is yours now to tell them how they can do this and what the process is. So it's all yours.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Finlay, and thanks, Eric. Eric clearly is a shining example of a successful startup that came through the American Made Solar Prize. So I'm here today to talk to you all about what this is. So I'll just jump right in. But we call this program the American Made Prize Program. I'm Debbie Brogiles. I do work at the National Renewable Energy Lab that Eric and Finlay were just talking about. I've been there for 28 years now, so it's a very long time. But I will say that I'm having the most fun ever right now running this prize program because we are seeing the impact that we are having directly on companies like Eric's. So so here we are doing this American Made Challenge, and you might be like, well, what is this all about? I heard that they're giving away prize money. That sounds good. So what does this mean? So really, we like to think of the American Made program as your fast track to the clean energy revolution. And literally, we use the word "your" there very deliberately because we want to see you participate. We want you to come in and join the network to help other innovators work, or join one of our prizes and do amazing things through our prize competitions as well. So the program involves prizes, of course, we're talking about that, but then it also involves the training and the teaming and the mentoring and the connecting that Eric was talking about because of the wonderful network of support that we have for our prize innovators as well. So here are some numbers. We have been around with this American Made Prize program now for more than 5 years now. And in our network, that wonderful network that Katie talked about, we have more than 400 now network members that are there to help connect our innovators, get them the help that they need, and et cetera. We have more than 60 prizes. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the solar prize today because that one is open and available and very much in hopefully everybody's wheelhouse on this call. But there are literally 60 prizes that you can participate in. So I would encourage you to take a look at those. Some are, some have been completed, some are still open, but in general, we've done 60. And there's been more than $200 million in cash prizes and support that has been dedicated to this program. So we talk a lot about prizes, but really the American Made program is an innovation engine, I like to think of it as. So it's prizes, it's that wonderful network that Katie mentioned, it's training that's coming from in the form of mentoring and support from that network. And then it's also vouchers. So in the case of Solar Prize, in a couple of the phases that I will talk about, we are giving cash prize money plus vouchers, which provides an opportunity to work with the national laboratories through a voucher process. So you could actually get your prototype tested or built or supported by a national lab scientist using world-class facilities at the lab. And Eric had mentioned that he utilized Sandia National Lab for that. So prize challenges are very unique because they offer really innovative and fast and agile innovation cycles. So we try to develop our prizes in a stair-stepped or phased approach where the first barrier to entry is so low. We want people to come in and see themselves in these prizes and compete. And then as they continue throughout the prize, those stair steps or phases get a little bit more difficult as the money also increases. But that first step should be really quick, really easy. And then the innovation cycles are also very quick and easy. We're hoping that it's inspiring the next generation of scientists and engineers, which we are definitely seeing. So we are seeing kind of the new workforce come into these prizes and participate, which is really wonderful. And it's expanding people from all different backgrounds. And as Katie's mentioned, we're looking for people that have never worked with the Department of Energy before. So these prizes are really doing that for us. It's kind of opening new doors so that people who have never worked with DOE before, possibly coming from underserved or different backgrounds, are coming in and seeing themselves as part of this program as well. And then it's providing new opportunities for public-private partnerships and building connections to government and industries. And then also we are creating a new pipeline of innovators. We're also seeing that as these wonderful competitors come in and they win a prize challenge, now they're really well suited to go over and win maybe an SBIR or a FOA or another traditional kind of grant award from the Department of Energy. Katie mentioned our network and I mentioned our vouchers, but the combination, I think, of those two things helping our innovators is really amazing. So So yeah, so I won't touch more on that at this point, but you can definitely go to our website to learn more. And you're all welcome to join the network as well, because all of you probably could be amazing mentors to our innovators as well. We have many, many prizes. I did mention we have 60, so I won't go into them here, but this just kind of gives you a flavor as to, the types that we have. And many of our prizes are very technical, like the solar prize is technical and it's really focused on developing new solar startups and new solar innovations. But some of our prizes are less technical. Like we have a historically Black college and university prize that's all about kind of developing HBCU students and giving them opportunities. We have community type coalition prizes. We have water prizes, wind, hydropower, geothermal, etc. So if you have other interests, please check out our website too. And then we are so happy that Secretary Granholm really engages with us on our prizes as well. So we love to give away big checks, as you can see in that top picture. So she's definitely been on stage with us numerous times to help give away some of our big award-winning checks. And then she's also helped announce some of our competitions. She's also been to Puerto Rico in the bottom picture to visit one of our prize winners. So she's definitely engaged with us, which really makes us thrilled. Okay, so I'm here today to talk about the Solar Prize. We are in our 7th round, which is hard to believe. But so we're in round 7. We know what we're doing. This has been now 7 rounds of pretty much the same prize, which is really awesome, because then you all as innovators, especially if you've gone through it in the past, you kind of know what to expect. I always would say the first thing to do is read the rules document, because the rules document tells you everything that you need to know about the Solar Prize. But the first step of the Solar Prize is that ready contest. So it's ready, set, and go. So in the ready contest, we are asking you all to make a plan. So tell us who you are, tell us what your team is, tell us what your plan is, what's your solution, what is your new idea for the solar industry. Based on that, we award 20 semifinalists $50,000 in cash. Plus, we have this JEDI opportunity where if your solution is helping with justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, you could actually get another little bonus prize for that. And then also this year, we have another prize for innovators that maybe aren't quite ready. So there are sometimes that we get, like Katie said, sometimes high school students come in and apply for this. And it's harder for a high school student to compete sometimes with some of these more established companies, or even a startup that's been around for already a year. So we actually have another little prize is on the side that is for some of those folks that have a wonderful idea. They have a really great plan, but they just maybe didn't quite meet the rest of the requirements, or be at quite as good as the other competitors. And so we even have a little bonus prize to encourage some of those newer innovators as well. But in general, you get 4 months to compete. So right now, the Solar Prize is open and ready for you all to compete. Right now, you should be building your team, coming up with your ideas, and then looking at those prize rules and the submission package. Once you submit, and then once you win, then you are in that cohort of 20, and only that cohort of 20 gets to keep going on to the set contest. In the set contest, you're designing and developing your proof of concept. So you're building out what your plan had said in the ready contest, and you're making progress. What we really like to see is huge progress made, new partnerships built, actually, a proof of concept developed, lots of progress made, as much as you can make in that 4 months. Then we award 10 finalists $100,000 in cash, plus a $75,000 voucher. Plus, there's also another JEDI award. But this is a really powerful, I think, piece of this prize, because you get $100,000 to add on to your first 50. Plus, you get that $75K to work at a national lab. And that could be anything from testing your prototype to helping to build it, or doing an evaluation of some sort. Then you get another 4 months to compete for the Go contest. And in the Go contest, what we're looking for also is making a lot of progress throughout the prize, and then also developing that prototype even further, and more importantly, developing a pilot partner. So some sort of client or customer, or some sort of pilot partner that is willing to test that widget that you have, or install it somewhere, or utilize it in their business. So at the end of Go, 2 winners get $500,000 in cash, plus another $75,000 voucher to continue working with the National Lab. And of course, there's still a JEDI prize there too. So hopefully you can kind of see the progress through the progression of what the solar prize is all about. But give us your plan. Pretty low barrier to entry to get in. So I would encourage literally everybody on this call to take a look at this and hopefully apply to Solar Prize Round 7. Put your idea in. You never know what's going to spark the interest of DOE. I've also seen that there's some ideas that maybe are a little bit out there, and DOE looks at prizes as like, hey, let's give them a chance. That idea we normally could not fund with the normal grant or FOA process, but we could fund it with a prize, give that team $50,000 and see what they can do with that through the course of the prize. So I would say, please don't be shy about putting in, any of your great ideas. And you could put in up to 3 ideas, by the way, from one startup. You also don't need to be a startup. You could be an individual that's, not even a company yet. But by the time you get to the second phase of the competition, you must incorporate as a company. So right now, because this prize is open, you should be thinking about your idea. You should be building that strong, diverse team. You should be reading the prize rules. I would highly recommend connecting to the American Made Network and our power connectors. So on our website, you will find some power connectors that are basically contractors to us that are there paid by us to help you succeed. So please take a look at those. It does look good on your application, your submission, if it looks like you have been engaging with the network and working with some power connectors to make your submission the best it can be. And then start competing and submit no later than September 27th. I believe that there's a deadline of 3 p.m. Mountain Time, so just make sure you're looking at the timing there. But please make sure that you get your submission in, because if you miss that September deadline, then you're going to have to wait basically another year for round 8. So, and I can't always guarantee that round 8's coming, but it's, you don't want to miss this window that's open right now. Also, our team is going to be at RE Plus. So I don't know if you all will be there or not, but if you're going to be going to RE Plus in Las Vegas, September 11th, 12th, and 13th, our team will be there. We're going to make a big announcement on stage for the round 6 Go winners. So we're going to be giving away more big checks. And then we're going to be announcing some other important things at RE Plus too. So please follow us, come to our booth there. Origami Solar will be there as well. You can talk to all of us and get in-person connections made at RE Plus. And then real quick, I just want to let you know that there's a couple other solar related prizes that are out there. I won't go into details on these, but this is the Heliostat prize. We have a Community Power Accelerator prize, which is very focused on community solar. We have a Solar Data Bounty prize, which is about providing data from your solar applications that you already have installed. And then the Solar Ambassador prize is one that we are doing in Puerto Rico. And so this is the website for AmericanMadeChallenges.org, and then also my personal email if you would like to reach out to me directly.
Great. Thank you, Debbie. Do you have a prize for overseas market analysts?
No, I don't. At the
rhetorical.
moment.
Rhetorical. I think you might have to explain to people what a check is, but you can do that if they email you and ask you what is a
That's
check.
funny.
So very quickly, roughly, how many origamis are there out there? So if you're looking at number of companies that have had a prize in through the previous rounds, I mean, is it 5, 10, 50? What's the kind of number of successful companies?
Yeah, good question. So if you look at the solar prize, right, we have 2 prize winners, big prize winners at the end. So those, so we've had 7 rounds now. And so if you do the math, then you'll figure that out. But we have more than 555 innovators that have won prizes throughout American Made. So that doesn't just count the solar prize, right? But that includes anybody who has won any phase of an American Made Prize Challenge. We've given out money to more than 550 companies.
Right. Okay. So I'm going on the record right now saying in 6 months' time we should do a little webinar on some of the solar companies that have received prizes. Does that sound good? They can maybe
I think
like
that
just
sounds
do a
great.
little. Yeah, because I was thinking like I don't know, and I'd love to know about all the others, but I'm not going to go away and read like websites and pages and look at awards and things and who's. But actually, for the solar specific, I think everyone would love to know.
So
And maybe
one thing I will say is on our website, on our network page. So we have a network page. If you follow the links there, we have a brand new alumni search tool, which is really incredible. So you could go over there. We actually call it portfolio companies, but you could go over to our network page, look for portfolio companies, and you can do a search. And it's really nifty because you could do a search by technology type. So you could search just for solar prize winners. So that would bring in all of them, and then you could see like a little write-up about all of the solar prize winners.
But that does not compare to the two of us being in a webinar talking about it, does it?
No, it does
Really?
not. It's a start.
So it is indeed, yes. So let's bring back Eric and Katie to life, and we have got some questions coming in, and we've got about 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a couple of generic questions. Right, and like literally this is going to be quick fire. So first question, like it's 12 months since the Inflation Reduction Act was announced, roughly 12 months. So it's about a year. For each of you, how has it changed your life? Okay, Eric, first.
Our economics of our module frame don't require or rely on the IRA, so it was hugely supplemental. And what it's done is change the market. I think in 2022, the US capacity was about 5 gigawatts of actual making, and we're rocketing towards 60, 80, 100 gigawatts of domestic manufacturing. And so the market for our product has just exploded.
Right. Brilliant. Debbie, how have you seen it changing entries? Has it changed? Have you seen any, or how has it impacted the prize?
Yeah, so, well, for sure, it's provided more opportunity for additional prizes to be announced, right? So it is funding that's coming straight from the Department of Energy, and there is a lot of that money. So sometimes it comes in the form of a prize, which is very nice. So we are doing more and more prizes, it seems. And then it does seem that we are getting more and more innovators to kind of be interested in this field, probably partially because of that.
Right. And Katie, it must have changed an awful lot for you.
I have to multiple times a month tell people I'm not allowed to comment on it and point them towards the IRS website. So
that's good. But has it made your life busier?
Certainly.
Right. That's the main thing. Right, and again, I'm going to try this question, and again, I apologize if I don't want to ask anything where you have to say anything outside the remit and everything, and hopefully everyone understands that we do get two like DOE people on here, and they're thank you very much for them for coming on and talking. It's brilliant. The next one is one that I've been thinking a lot, and I've been thinking a lot in the last 6 months. Is obviously there's a lot of ambitious plans for manufacturing and innovation and taking this technology so that it can be producing things, solar things in the US, and that is what the whole game's about. But I often think that it's a huge challenge for the US to be doing this in complete isolation to the rest of the world. So, do you see these synergies in how some other countries are trying to champion from the solar space, champion new technologies into manufacturing? Is there anyone else that's been doing that well that you think that's something that, we should all be looking at? Or another part of the question is international collaboration. Again, just broadly speaking, do you think this is something that we're going to see more of, or is going to evolve because it's kind of important that there are some other parts of some other companies or technologies that US manufacturing needs to benefit from? That's a deep question. Eric.
That is a deep question. I will say that we start our days usually around 7 when we're talking to Europe, and we end our days around 7 when we're talking to Asia, and this is a constant process. So yeah, we're very involved on a global basis. Our focus for our initial coming to the market is certainly domestic, but yeah, we think that the globalization of solar is a key element of what's driving the industry forward.
Okay, and Debbie, we'll go to you. Are we entirely just looking at US startups, or is this type of thing going on anywhere else? Do you know?
That's a great question. I don't know if it's going on. I'm assuming it probably is, right? I'm assuming that there probably are other prizes internationally. We, in general, the funding that we are giving away in these prizes, we are looking for US-based startups in general. However, it does not prevent us from working overseas and bringing in partners that are on international base.
Yeah. I kind of I don't see it anywhere else. Certainly not solar specific, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
Really, startups can apply for all sorts of things, but I don't see it prioritized at this level at all. Katie, I'm not going to ask you to go into too much detail, but do you think that, or do you see elsewhere in the world kind of similar, incentives or similar activities going on? You must kind of, you've been in India, so India's probably the one other part of the world where, if ever there was a government that wanted to, champion, domestic activity, it's there.
No, I think, as you said, India certainly does have motivation to champion domestic activities. The U.S. it's a unique place in some ways in its spirit, right? I think the feeling of even anyone on YouTube could become the next Beyonce kind of thing. Like, we're a nation of dreamers. But when I think about the money, from IRA, sure, it's money in the U.S. being spent there, but look, we fund ERIC, and ERIC is on the phone with Asia and Europe in the same day. And it's when you're working on climate change, it's rising tides lift all boats. There's certainly some things that will be domestically focused, like workforce issues, right? That's going to be a pretty specific and geographically specific issue with IRA increasing manufacturing. But no, I think it's a global issue, and it's just stoking global fights to tackle it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've just got a couple of minutes, and it's when I said to everyone ask the questions, I didn't mean ask them all at 59 minutes into the 1 hour webinar. Right, I am not a robot, but I'm going to ask just each of you one very quick question that I was kind of thinking about, and some of the questions have come in on that topic. Debbie, one of the things, how do you make sure that it is like a US owned innovation? Are there people looking at, do you have to have IP filed, or are people looking at due diligence? What are the checks in place there?
Yeah, I saw a question about IP too that I was going to answer, but I'll just answer it here now. So as far as IP goes, you are in control of your own IP, right? We don't want your IP. We want you to keep your IP and be very, very successful with that. And so we want you to do that. When you work with our network, that's an engagement that you need to be aware of when you are telling somebody about your IP and how much information you divulge and what NDAs are required and things like that. But that's the goal there. As far as our US-based companies go, we are paying, right? We're paying either an individual, an organization, or a company. And so when we do that, we ask for their tax information, right? So when we get that information for the people that we are supposed to be paying, we make sure that those entities are the actual entity that's also on the submission and all that good stuff. So I would recommend that when people are looking at that submission form, just think carefully about whose name and what name you're going to be putting on that line if you do win, we're going to be paying that entity, and then that entity will be responsible for the taxes that come with the prize winnings as well.
Yep. Okay. Eric, you mentioned the initial focus was on licensing as a business model, and then you shifted to wanting to manufacturing, and thank you very much for doing that, by the way. The licensing model is tends to be a really challenging one. When you made that change of business model, what were then the biggest challenges compared to having a licensing model?
Well, the licensing was really based because I saw that the industry was verticalizing. In other words, more, the big module companies who are our customers were buying up the component manufacturing as well and integrating them. And then with the IRA and the explosion of solar, these companies are barely able to keep up with the demand on them. And so that was part of why we shifted. The licensing model also is very hard to get traction, and it's hard to enforce. And so we really saw that changing over made a lot of sense. It obviously changes the amount of money and the amount of investment that's required. But we're pursuing a model where we have partner fabricators, and we have great steel suppliers, and so we're positioned at the proper financing also to be able to move forward with a full supply model.
Okay, so very final question is to you, Katie, because you mentioned the magic word in your presentation, perovskite, right? It's so. Is this, I think you mentioned it seems that's a long time ago, it was about 45, 50 minutes. I think you mentioned it in the context of, trying to prioritize some technologies. Is perovskite seen as a key technology, within the roadmap?
I mentioned it as one of the technological areas we're looking into and that we do research and fund. I think everyone agrees that if perovskites work out, that it'll be a beautiful thing and a beautiful day. And that is certainly the hope.
I think that's the quote. It will be a beautiful day. I think we're going to use that, or maybe not, because then we're actually we're saying that we've got preferences on technologies. We're meant to be technology agnostic, and let the best one win. But there you go. You can't end a webinar with a better quote if it's going to be a beautiful day. Right, everyone, thank you very much. Absolutely delighted. Most of the questions seem to be, please, can I watch it again? Can I have a recording? And that's great. And I'm sure that we'll end up with about 5 or 6 times the amount of people that will actually listen to the recording, because I really enjoyed it. And so thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And Lauren, if you could just bring up, I just wanted to say one final thing. We have our big manufacturing event taking place. Eric's going to be on stage talking all about more details. It's all about US PV manufacturing out to 2030, what's really going to happen technology-wise. Perovskite may get mentioned more than 1,000 times. Next one, Lauren. Just some of the people that are talking, there's going to be about 40, 50 people talking. It's all through the value chain, a massive focus on cell technology and wafer technology and equipment and manufacturing and bill of materials, not just who's going to say they're going to come to America or going to set up a module factory, who's going to make the cells, who's going to provide the production equipment, who's going to make an ingot puller, a wire cutter, all those things in detail. Last one, Lauren, is the next one. And again, fraction of the company. So we're actually kind of hoping that every stakeholder in making manufacturing work for solar in the US the next 5 years is going to be there. What a challenge. So I'm looking forward to that. It's on the 3rd and 4th of October in the Bay Area, just south of the airport. And there's tickets left to buy. You'll get an email, it'll flag that up. And I think we're slightly over our 1 hour. So at that point, I'm just going to thank our speakers and contributors. Again, you've got other details. You can contact them directly. And look forward to seeing you, whatever that's going to be. Thank you, everyone.